Discovery, roger. Go for deploy.
Alrighty guys, welcome back to Adventure Fit Radio. This week on the show, we are taking it to a mindfulness approach. We have Danny Penman, who is the author of Mindfulness, How to Find Peace in a Frantic World. How to Find Peace in a Frantic World. Really good book, guys. First off the bat, I read this actually. I stole it from Bill's house, but he doesn't know about that, so just keep it on the DL.
I haven't even actually read it.
Yeah, I know, because I've
stole it.
I've literally stolen it.
I haven't seen it back, and I'm not probably going to read it now.
You probably won't read it because I've stolen it. So it's a really good book, guys. Couldn't recommend it highly enough, especially to Bill. I recommend it to him all the time, but for some reason he just doesn't want to read it. It's a step-by-step process, guys. So this is a good chat. We had a good chat. We spoke a lot about mindfulness, spoke a lot about what the man behind the book actually does with himself. And it was a good show. He's got a cool accent. First off the bat, though, team, we are brought to you by.
Brought to you by.
How good was that one? Was that a little better?
Well done, man.
That was a little better, wasn't it? Brought to you by, yeah.
It's normally, I thought we were sponsored to you by.
Sponsored to you by, yeah. No, we're brought to you by.
Shit.
We are brought to you by True Pride, which is a wealth creation service, guys. It's a budgeting service. No matter where you are in life, guys, you can always use this stuff. Keeps you a little bit more accountable. Craig and the guys will really help you out there. Head to www.truepride.com.au/ADVF to get the initial $297 fee completely waived. Yes, that is completely waived when you book a call via their website. So head on over there, guys. Carve, we are sponsored. We are brought to you by Carve. If you want to get rid of, or just if you actually just want to worry less and get more time to your day, guys, just to offset some of the shite that you don't want to be doing on your projects, any sort of project, online project, whatever it needs to be, head to www.carve.ph/ADVF. You can get 10 free hours when you book and sign up with them. Finally, we are sponsored by Adventure Fit Travel.
Yes, so we are. Adventure Fit Travel, guys. So we've got some cool trips coming up on our website you can check out, but you should also look at our custom trips. We've just signed another custom trip that we've organised for a gym in Brisbane, Australia. We had a gym from China a few months ago. These guys have got a gang together, and we put together a trip that they want to do. So they've chosen to go to Koh Tao, Thailand, 7 days. We've got Dimitri Klokov coming over. They've got to choose their activities. So if you want to get your community together and do the same thing, then get in touch. You can email me, doc@adventuretravel.com, or head to our website and check it out that way. If you're looking for trips on our website and you're a listener to the show, don't forget to use radio as your code to get 10% off.
Here's the show.
Alrighty, guys, here we are. We are talking with Danny Penman today. Danny is an award-winning author and author of Mindfulness. Tommy, would you like to touch on Mindfulness, the book that you stole off me?
Yeah, I did. I actually stole. So the reason we wanted to get in touch with you, Danny, and for all the listeners at home, is because I actually genuinely stole a book off Bill. So don't judge me too harshly there, mate. My mindfulness wasn't on point there. But Finding Peace in a Frantic World, I read the book and was really intrigued by it. It was mindfulness and meditation, and for all listeners at home, but for yourself, Danny, it's a big part of Bill and myself's life. And as soon as reading the book, and it gives such a practical guide to the way you should roll through it. And we wanted to get you on the show, mate. So that's basically our backstory.
We normally throw straight to Tommy.
We do,
but we've wound this up a little bit. So Danny, welcome to the show.
That's good. Yeah, I'm delighted to be on. I'm always happy to talk about mindfulness, and I'm just really pleased that you've come across the book and taken up the meditations, because clearly I'm passionate about it, and I think it can help solve a great many of the world's problems.
Absolutely.
How did you have it in your house, firstly, Bill?
My friend
Danny probably just snuck it under the door, didn't he?
my friend Elaine said that she'd struggled really badly with anxiety, and I was going through similar stuff, and she said that it was one of the things, probably the lead catalyst that that really helped her get through her anxiety. Hey, Danny, we're going to sing you a song though. We've put it off. Tommy's going to sing you a tribute. Then we'll get stuck into this.
Okay. All right, Danny, this is called Sweet Home Mental Peace, and it is in no way related to Sweet Home Alabama, despite the fact that the song sounds exactly the same. All right. Well, I hear about mental struggle. It amazes me every day. And when I learn about the mindfulness, well, it just all takes it all away. Now Danny here is a man of knowledge. Ooh, 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 his book has been read so many times. So if you're going through the shit creek, well, Danny will kill you to the nines. Ooh, come on, sweet home mental peace, where the skies are so blue. Sweet home mental peace, the future looks so bright for you. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Done.
That's brilliant. I love it.
And yeah, look, the actual the chords and they're all totally mine. So I'm probably going to take it to a recording artist and see what, there is another song out there.
I like how you said that. Take it to a recording artist who could actually perform it.
Put it together. Yeah. Look,
yes, exactly.
Similar to another song out there, but obviously Behind Blue Eyes by The Who. I mean, that was around a long time ago. So,
Danny, so officially welcome to the show, but. Let me pick up where I left off. So my friend Elaine had passed on Mindfulness, your book, to me, which Tommy then stole from me, and then Tommy got lots out of, and I've been waiting to get it back. So I actually haven't read the book, Danny. So I'm just going to ask you. Let's start with where did you start your journey into mindfulness, and where did this all come from?
It's a really strange story. My big introduction to mindfulness happened, it's about 10 years ago. And I used to do a lot of paragliding. And I was paragliding over the Cotswold Hills in southern England. And it was an absolutely beautiful day. One of those very rare days in England, where the sun was out and it wasn't blowing a gale.
The one day, the famous day.
The one day of the year.
It's actually a historical moment on every calendar out there in the world.
Public holiday now.
Yeah. The Queen's birthday.
Anyway, the canopy collapsed and I was about 80 feet up in the air at the time.
Wow.
And it completely collapsed. I managed to reinflate it and then it collapsed again. And at this point, I was about 30 feet off the ground, and I tumbled head over heels onto towards the hillside. And luckily, I landed on my feet. But unluckily, the lower half of my right leg was driven a couple of inches through the knee into my thigh.
Oh, yeah.
So this obviously made the eyes water a little. It was just unbelievably painful.
Shit.
As you'd imagine. And I remembered a meditation that I had been taught when I was in secondary school. I was about 16 or 17 years old. It was a really simple breathing meditation. And I'd used it off and on over the years for kind of to deal with stress, really, for exam stress and that kind of thing. And I think I'd heard somewhere that meditation could be useful for pain. And this was I didn't have any painkillers with me. And so I just to try this really simple meditation out of desperation. And much to my surprise, it meant I could kind of cope with the pain a little more effectively. It was as if a piece of glass had been kind of inserted between me and the pain. So although it was diminishing, I could kind of, I was aware that it was still there, but it wasn't affecting me so deeply and profoundly. So it meant I could actually keep things together enough to call for an ambulance and just to cope with things until the ambulance arrived.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah, so I just found this incredibly effective. And then it was about a month in hospital where they put me back together. And I had this steel frame holding my leg together. And it was 3 concentric steel rings around the outside of my leg. And 16 bars and bolts were going through one side of the leg, through a fragment of bone, and then out the other side of the leg. And then attached, and this was all attached to the frame to hold my leg together. Mm-hmm. And I had this on. I was in hospital for about a month, and I then had this frame on my leg for about 5 months, and I had an awful lot of time on my hands. So I kept on doing this meditation to help me cope with the pain, and just to generally get through the day, because, you know, as you can imagine, I was extremely anxious and stressed about the situation I was in.
For sure.
And although I wasn't like clinically depressed, I was, you know, pretty unhappy with the situation. And so I used this to just help me get through things. And I then, almost by chance, came across the work of Professor Mark Williams at Oxford University in the UK. And he actually turned this meditation into a form of treatment for depression. And it was called mindfulness-based cognitive therapy. And I got hold of his book because I just thought it sounded absolutely fascinating, because I'd been using this technique to cope with injuries. And I realized that, you know, it was having a very deep and profound effect on me. So I got his book, and it was a real eye-opener. It was called The Mindful Way Through Depression. And I thought this was absolutely extraordinary. And I phoned him up because I was a journalist at the time, and thought the world really needs to know about this. And I could not get this into a newspaper at all. Everybody thought this was 10 years ago. Everybody thought it was just too wacky to go in a newspaper. And then, thankfully, there was some more research published showing that this worked on a really profound level. And so I managed to get a short piece into a newspaper. I kept in contact with Mark. And the newspaper article eventually turned into our book, Mindfulness, a Practical Guide to Finding Peace in a Frantic World. I carried on writing with Mark, really.
You seem to have skipped a whole. So we wrote a small article for a newspaper, and then it was a book.
And next thing you know, I'm a billionaire. And, hey, Danny, do you know what I find really interesting is that you use mindfulness, or you really jumped on the meditation bandwagon as a result of physical stress, and yet I would say 99% of people that I speak to, because this is a big interest of mine as well, and 99% of people that I recommend to, or that have been recommended to by, get onto this sort of stuff because they're going through some form of mental stress. Do you see the same thing with people reading your book?
Yeah, I think that most people get to the book or do mindfulness meditation purely for kind of anxiety, stress, and depression. I think there's actually a big mental leap required to use it for chronic pain. And that's understandable, because we all think of pain as being purely physical. And obviously it has a major physical component, but there is a secondary aspect to pain as well. And that's where mindfulness can help. And after the publication of Mindfulness, I teamed up with a woman in the UK who's actually from New Zealand originally, who turned mindfulness into a treatment for chronic pain and suffering. And she set up an institute in the UK called Breathworks. And they have developed an 8-week program that helps people cope with chronic pain and suffering. And so the second book, Mindfulness for Health, was about that program. And it's starting to be used in pain clinics across the UK now.
Let's Danny, can I take it back just one step? So not all of our listeners, I remember I heard about the word mindfulness and meditative practices and so on and so forth from Tim Ferriss and on his podcast.
Oh, yes.
He was talking about how many high performers use mindfulness, whether they've got depression or anxiety, or just mainly to be more clear in the mind and more efficient, more effective at work. But when I was listening to these things, I'm an entrepreneur. I've got a young business, so I was thinking, this could be really beneficial to me. But when I was listening to mindfulness, meditation, all these buzzwords, not buzzwords, but the descriptive words, I kept thinking to myself, what does this even mean? What is this? Like, what? So, because not all of our listeners actually know what you mean by mindfulness, and so why don't you tell them exactly what it is?
Okay, mindfulness is purely full conscious awareness of whatever is going on in your mind or around you. So it's a very aware state of mind. Now, traditionally, this was cultivated using mindfulness meditation. A very simple mindfulness meditation is sitting down on a straight back chair, closing your eyes and focusing on the sensations of breathing. And that cultivates this very aware state of mind. But you can use other techniques as well. For example, you can, if you're eating or drinking, just focusing on all the flavors and the textures and the aromas of the food or drink. And what that does is it brings you into the present moment, because most people, most of the time, live their lives either in the past or in the future. That is, they're worrying about things that have happened in the past, or they're worrying about things that have happened in the future. So in a sense, they're kind of cultivating these, it's almost like a fantasy world.
Yeah. Psychological time.
Exactly. Whereas actually mindfulness brings you right back into the present moment, so that you're experiencing the world as it is happening at this present moment. One of the common misconceptions is it's about not thinking. And actually, that's completely wrong. Mindfulness is really being aware that when you are thinking, you are thinking. So you don't get wrapped up inside your thoughts. You no longer take your thoughts as being kind of the God's honest gospel of what is going on.
Yes.
You start to treat your thoughts a little bit more skeptically. You start to analyze them. You start to become aware of the way they kind of feed off each other and create anxiety, stress, and depression.
I think I think a good way to explain it is when you are going through bouts of anxiety or depression, that you believe that your thoughts are you, and then
Absolutely,
and then when you're not in that state, then you realize that you're able to see your thoughts for just thoughts, and you're actually making them up with your side of your mind, and then you're able to enjoy So I cut you off though, so sorry to cut you off, but okay. So
that's absolutely true. You know, the greatest thing you can learn from mindfulness is that you are not your thoughts.
Definitely.
It's your thoughts are a running commentary on the world. You know, they might be true, they might not be true. Only time will tell.
And how does say, for example, somebody like yourself, so somebody who, obviously you've written a book on mindfulness. I imagine you've got some pretty serious meditative practices. What is your day-to-day like? Do you struggle with anxieties and depressions, or how easily can you control your mind and be and dictate where it leads you?
Yeah, mindfulness isn't really about controlling your mind. It's if you become aware how your mind works, then it just starts to work more effectively and kind of works for you rather than tie itself in knots.
Gotcha.
I like everybody else. From time to time, I have minor anxieties, stresses. Thankfully, touch wood, I've never suffered from proper depression. Although obviously some days I feel less good than others.
Mm-hmm.
But what mindfulness gives you is greater perspective. So although you realize it is not very good, or it might feel as if the world is against you on one particular day, you know that tomorrow is going to be different.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what mindfulness gives you, really. It's that sense of perspective. If some terrible tragedy has just befallen you, it's not going to suddenly make you feel full of happiness and joy. It will just give you a greater sense of perspective on that terrible tragedy, which over time will hopefully alleviate the worst aspects of it.
For sure.
So, it's not a panacea. It's just helps you cope with life more effectively.
Hey, Danny, I'm really interested. Mindfulness is obviously one form of, I guess, meditation. And when I first started going down mindfulness, I kind of wanted to explore all forms of meditation. And I was just wondering if you could shed some light, if you've explored maybe Buddhism or transcendental meditation, and maybe some of the similarities that they have with mindfulness and some of the differences as well.
Yeah, I'm not so familiar with transcendental meditation. I
kind of want to just know what it is.
Same. I have no idea.
Really
I have no idea what it is. I imagine you start floating and you're
like
looking down. And,
And next thing you know, you're just in the sky.
Well, but my understanding is that you essentially, instead of focusing on the breath, for example, you focus on your mantra. And so you create that some kind of I'm not sure what it does, actually. This is why I'm a bit wary about
we can cut this all out, Danny. Don't worry, mate.
We'll make you sound like a legend. So that's basically what it is.
I know very little about it, but that's pretty much all I know is that you focus on this mantra, and I presume it creates some kind of relaxed state of mind. The downside is you've got to pay £2,000 or whatever it is to on a TM course. So
that's very true.
I think
it's quite a lot of money to spend just to find out what it is.
To focus on a mantra.
I think the benefits with mindfulness. I want to get into your actual a bit more about your book and the writing process and stuff. But I find when I feel like I'm in the present moment and I'm not focusing on something in the future, or I'm not worrying about something in the past. When I'm right there in the moment, I feel like everything in the world is 20% greater.
That's just good. Really good.
You walk through a park and you're like, far out. Have a look at how green that grass is.
100%.
That is awesome. Yep. Or like, hey, that chick in the service station that I just served, she had a real big smile on her face. That was a really good interaction, and you can't. When you're not in the present moment,
you can't fault the world.
Yeah, no, that's right. But on the other side of things, when you're not in that present moment, you can't see you can't see these little glories of the day-to-day stuff that we live in. You just take it for granted, and you got too much other stuff on your mind. But so, Danny, do you think you mentioned before that you couldn't 10 years ago when you were trying to write the book, you couldn't get it into a newspaper, let alone have people kind of get behind you to publish a book, I suppose. Do you think even in this short amount of time that things have changed? For example, I just spoke to one of my good buddies, Corey, the other day, and me and Corey are just two real blokey blokes. Kind of like we're very... If you had have told me 5 years ago that me and Corey would be sitting talking about different meditation practices that we do and gratitude journaling and all this stuff, I would have been like, what? Are you serious? Like, when did we become all... Like, I would have felt weird about it. But it's in my mindset, it's changed so much. Is it like a cultural shift since when you went to write the book, or...?
Yes. I mean, for me, it's been... a cultural shift. But I mean, I've always been interested in things that 10 or 20 years ago would have been considered a bit odd, such as mindfulness. However, it has become so mainstream now because, well, it works, so you have people from such dramatically different walks of life doing meditation, and they do it because it works, it doesn't matter whether they're a trader in the city of London or whether they're working in an office or in a shipyard. They do it for the same reason. They find it useful for alleviating stress,
definitely,
or sometimes chronic pain as well. And that to me it's been an enormous cultural shift. And this every now and again it gets billed in the media as, a fad or just, something similar to that, as if it's going to disappear tomorrow. Our books may disappear tomorrow. I don't know. However, it's been around for 2,500 years, and it's been around for that length of time for a very good reason,
100%.
Why do you think it has such a stigma of being such a hippie-related thing? Like, meditation. Like,
that's what I was
hippie.
getting at. That's what I was getting at before.
You just mentioned it's been around for 2,500, maybe even more. We don't know how long, ancient Asian civilizations have been practicing all this stuff, like the enlightened civilizations of the past. And yet all of a sudden now we talk about meditation in the Western world, and you consider it like a hippie freak almost.
Yeah. It's purely and simply because lots of people in the 60s and 70s went to India. They were hippies, and they came across these practices, found them useful, and brought them back. Now, if commodity traders had all gone to India at the same time, found it useful, and brought it back, we would be seeing it as just something that commodity traders do.
Yeah, that's right.
And in a sense, it has a stigma because the hippies brought it back, but it would have a different stigma if commodity traders had brought it back.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true.
Well, I think it's definitely starting to shift in that regard, because you look at Tim Ferriss. He's got one of the most popular podcasts in the world, number one business ranked podcast in nearly every country in the world, and his first 100 episodes, every high performer that he would ask, do you have a meditative practice? Do you have a mindfulness practice?
Really? That's interesting.
Yeah, that was actually...
And they all said yes, pretty much.
He said in Tim Ferriss's... I'm pretty sure he stopped asking the question, I have a feeling, but in at least his first probably 100 shows, he would ask so he would always interview high performers from all different fields, and the one correlation that he had between all of the different interviewees was that they had some sort of mindfulness technique, whether they spent 20 minutes in the morning meditating before they did anything for the day, whether they had a 5-minute meditation, whether they sat in a park and just relaxed between. What they tried to get the same benefits of stilling the mind some way or another. And a lot of them did it because they wanted to be the most successful in the world at whatever they're doing, not because they had anxiety or depression, but because they wanted to excel. Alrighty, we're just going to have a quick break in between our Danny Penman to talk about our sponsors.
In between our Danny Penman.
Our Penny Danman. Penelope Danman.
Danny Penis Man.
So we want to talk to you about our sponsors, guys, and they are True Pride. True Pride are a wealth creation service that will help ambitious individuals worry less, take control, and get ahead. So basically, True Pride guys have different varying levels of wealth creation. So they have the bottom rung, which is me and Tommy, where we're working on our budget to try and save money during the week. Then there's the next run where you're looking for an investment, whether it might be in the stock market or it might be in real estate. It might be in the stock market or real estate, and also how to lastly how to diversify your portfolio if you already have a portfolio, and add some different asset classes as well that I probably don't know too much about. So head to book a call if you got some money to invest, or you want to break down your budget and save during the week. Then head to www.truepride.com.au/ADVF. Have a call with the guys there. If you decide to join up, then the joining fee of $297 will be waived 100%ly.
100%ly?
Yep.
Okay.
100%ly.
100% line. Guys, we're also brought to you by Carve. Now, people want to eat. He wanted to talk about Carve.
Yeah, I've been dying to talk about Carve, guys.
Why?
So Carve are because, mate, they're what are Carve? Carve are where we get our VAs from, guys. So basically, we get all this work in the Philippines done. We get 120 hours per week across the board at AdventureFit. We get 2 full-time assistants through AdventureFit Travel, 1 full-time assistant through AdventureFit Radio. I've since starting this podcast, we've had the guys from the Naked Co, I believe, signing up. My mate Murphy's signing up. My mate Chongy's signing up. Who else? We've got a bunch of crew that have signed up that are super stoked and really excited, or people that are already working with them that are super happy that they've been able to outsource all the shitty parts of their job, and then also just get more done. So realistically, You're paying nothing. If you're earning a Western wage, you're really paying very little for this help. But the guys over in the Philippines still get paid really well, and so it works for everybody. So check out www.carve.ph/ADVF. Try them out, 10 hours free, and then Bob's your auntie.
Bob's you, yeah, Bob. Oh, very good. Good on you, Bob. Alrighty, back to the show.
Penny Damon.
Penny Smith. And back to the show.
This is interesting. This is really, really interesting.
And as well, when we talk to a lot of our successful guys and girls on the show, they're all meditating as well. They have some form of spiritual, I guess, side to them, and they're able to cope. Yeah. And it's really interesting. Do you meditate? I'm joking. That was a genuine joke.
No, that's a good question. What about for you, Danny? What's your meditative routine?
I would say most days I go to the park. I live close to a very beautiful park. I have my favorite bench. I sit on my bench and it overlooks the city. I sit down, I close my eyes, and I focus on the breath for, 5 minutes or so. And then I broaden my awareness to listen to all of the sounds that are going on around me. So you hear the sounds of the city mixed with the sounds of kind of birds and just general wildlife. I do that for maybe 10 minutes, and then I will go back to focusing on the breath and pay attention to the thoughts that pop into my mind and the way they try to feed off each other and the way they rise and fall and eventually dissolve. So the whole practice probably takes maybe 20 minutes, 25 minutes. And that would be a typical start to the day. So I'll do that after breakfast and before I start work.
Right.
Hey, this is an interesting question. This is one that many people ask me when I talk to them about meditation. I say, hey, why don't you start meditating if you're feeling a bit stressed? And they say, I just don't have the time. What's your response to that one?
Of course they don't have the time. So they're going to have to make the time. And they will make that time by practicing meditation because it tends to liberate more time than it consumes.
It definitely does, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So most people will easily spend an hour or two each day just endlessly churning through the same old thoughts. And what mindfulness does, it dramatically shortens the amount of time that you spend chewing through those same thoughts. So that you might actually spend 15, maybe even 10 minutes each day meditating, but you will easily get back an hour through the day, easily.
So we had a guy, Jason Gibbs, one of our listeners, wrote in. He had a couple of questions, and one of them was a good amount of time or a good time of day. Like he wants to start meditating, but he doesn't know whether he should do it in the morning, whether he should do it in the evening, how long he should do it for. What would you recommend for somebody out there who's looking to really get that little bit of meditation in day to day?
You need to experiment about which is the best time of day. I mean, I personally find about 8:30 in the morning after breakfast before I start work is very good. Other people meditate as soon as they wake up, other people before they go to bed. So you need to kind of do a little experimentation. I personally think the morning is a good time. Things just seem a little quieter then. But you can meditate, if you're on a bus or a train or an aircraft, it's whenever you can find those times, really. I think it's important to mentally set aside the time as well so that you develop a routine, because the routine will help support you on those days where you're feeling a little bit low or a bit stressed and you feel you don't have the time. So creating those routines, I think, are quite important. And start off, just with a few minutes. Go to my website, franticworld.com, download some of the meditations. Most of them are only 10 minutes. So, a good starting point, I think, is 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And then gradually expand towards 20, but don't rush things. It's more important to begin than it is to, try and force yourself.
Absolutely.
Leap in there.
Absolutely. I have an app on my phone that has 5-minute guided meditations, and when I'm in a rush or if I'm feeling stressed, I'll do a 5-minute meditation, and I get heaps out of it. And it's literally like, if you can't spare 5 minutes of your day, then you're doing something wrong. You should.
Yes.
Yeah. But hey, so you've got 3 different books on mindfulness. So mindfulness in the Frantic World. So your first book, then mindfulness for health and mindfulness for creativity. So like I said, Tommy stole my mindfulness book. I haven't even read the first book, but
long-term borrowed.
But I noticed the mindfulness for health and mindfulness for creativity. So what's the difference there? Tell us about how it differs. Book 1, Book 2, Book 3, in which way you apply it and the benefits that you get from it.
Okay. The first one is for ordinary people who are kind of struggling to cope with the demands of daily life. So there's anxiety, stress, unhappiness. It wasn't written originally for people who were suffering from depression, but they seem to be gaining immense help from it. So, I'm happy to recommend it for that now. The second one, Mindfulness for Health, is for people suffering from chronic pain, chronic illness. And that's won the British Medical Association's Best Book Award. And it's starting to be used in pain clinics across the UK because it's very useful for not only physical pain, but people's just struggling to cope with chronic long-term illnesses as well, because stress for them is a major issue. But the thing is, when you start to dissolve your stress, physical pain begins to diminish too, and healing speeds up. So it's quite useful for that. Mindfulness for creativity is a bit of a departure in that instead of trying to help people cope with illness or disease or mental health issues, it's designed to kind of help people optimize their lives, optimize their mental health and well-being. And it does that by enhancing clarity of thought, creativity, and ultimately decision-making as well.
Okay.
And that's a far shorter course. It's only 4 weeks.
Okay.
As well.
Cool. So, all right. So that's what they do. How do they do that? Like, what is the? You can break it down very, very roughly, but like, what is the difference in the actual application of your? Yeah. How does it differ?
Okay. The first one is essentially a slimmed down mindfulness-based cognitive therapy course. So you're getting, it's a more intensive program. The second one, Mindfulness for Health, incorporates a lot of techniques that focus directly on relieving physical pain and suffering, and the kind of stresses that are peculiar to people who are suffering from kind of chronic pain and illness. The third one, the creativity book, is mostly it deals with the issues that people who work in the creative professions are likely to suffer from. And it works on 2 levels. First of all, it directly enhances creativity using what's known as an open monitoring meditation. And those tend to kind of broaden your awareness. It includes things like sounds and thoughts meditation, which is, as I was saying earlier, the practice I tend to use each day is when I go to the park and I just listen to the whole soundscape, all the different sounds that surround me. And that's a classic open monitoring meditation.
Right, okay.
And that actually broadens, it allows you to soak up more information, assimilate it more easily. And it's very good for relieving stress as well, so you don't feel overwhelmed. The second key aspect of it is it dissolves the inner critic, that nagging voice inside that is always criticizing you.
Yeah.
Saying you're not good enough.
I hate that guy.
Exactly. So rather than try and attack your inner critic, it understands where it's coming from. that actually it's trying to help you. It's trying to help you become a better person, to think more clearly, and not get into any trouble. And so it's a process really of soothing the inner critic, and it does that through what I call the resilience meditation. So it's a way of kind of coming to terms with yourself. And
Okay.
so that's the key difference.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, look, that's interesting. Hey, Danny, I originally went to a psychologist when I was having some anxiety and stuff, and we're actually now great mates with him on the show. He's a sports psychologist. We have him on the show all the time, Michael Ingers, who were listening to the show. Big shout out to him. One of the first things he said to me, because he's very big on mindfulness and meditation and all that sort of thing, I said to him, "Oh, look, mate, I wish I was just like a Buddhist monk and I could just control my mind, and I wish I could just become this Zen master." And he said to me, "Well, why do you have to control it?" And I didn't really understand that concept at the time, but that was a good 4 or 5 years ago now. I've been meditating ever since now, and the more I understand that concept, you start to that little inner critic that just holds on to everything, and it's like, oh, what if this and what if that, and imagine if this, and hey, you're just not good. I find that if you just go with it, and it's just like, oh yeah, well, what if I do get hit by that bus? Or yeah, well, what if I do have a panic attack in front of it? And it just goes away automatically. Is that something that people start to really? I feel like that was my personal take on mindfulness. But is that something that's very widespread when you talk to this sort of stuff with people?
Yeah, I mean, what mindfulness does really is allows you to be a bit kinder to yourself, so that you're no longer attacking yourself and undermining yourself. And we all do it. I mean, I have a great fear of public speaking, and I'm confident in most things, but I don't like getting in front of a crowd with huge numbers of people. And so, we all have our crosses to bear, and that's mine. And so, I'm getting over that, or hopefully getting over that, by just accepting that that's kind of the way I am. And, that's if people, have read my books and are keen to listen to me, then, they're going to have to put up with my slightly stilting style, as it were.
So how would you use mindfulness then to help with that fear? And do you?
The most important thing, the most important thing is accepting that that's part of me. That's I don't like being the center of attention, and that's just me. And if I didn't have that element to my character, then I wouldn't be me. I'd be somebody else.
Danny Penn woman.
Exactly. But everybody's got some kind of difficulty or something about themselves that they would like to change, and mindfulness helps you accept that.
What about do you actually do much public speaking, Danny, or do you avoid it for this reason?
Well, I try to avoid it. It's funny. I'm perfectly
It's very ironic considering we're talking to a man about eradicating anxiety.
Yeah, well, exactly. I mean, I'm perfectly happy to talk. I do it all the time, radio, television. Obviously, I'm quite comfortable with people reading my books. But I just don't like public speaking.
Yeah, I'm actually quite the same. Everybody thinks I'm a really big persona, and I'm very comfortable on the podcast nowadays, especially, and I can't stand standing up in front of people to talk. But the reason I asked that is because Jason, again, the guy that asked that the question that I had earlier, he also was talking about sport-specific stuff, or I was going to try and relate it to like an event, like in times that you have had to speak, or if you were going out for a lot of our listeners are in the health and fitness field. So if you were going out to do a maximum lift, or you're going out to start a game that you were very stressed about, say you're some sort of a team sport, like, do you have anything that you would do in those circumstances just to ready yourself to try and just calm the nerves? Do you just go and focus on a breath or two, or would you go and try and find a quiet place for 5 minutes? Do you have anything like that in those circumstances that you would go to?
I would one of the best things to do actually is the simplest meditation of all, which is if you could find somewhere quiet, that's great. If not, you just close your eyes, standing up in a busy place or sitting down or wherever. Focus on the ground beneath your feet for a few moments so that you really soak up that sensation of being rooted in the ground. And then focus on the breath and just focus on that's the way the air flows in and out of your body. And that's inherently calming and inherently soothing. That's great for, I would say, sports that require you not to be nervous, as it were. I wouldn't know what to do if you're doing a sport that requires kind of explosive energy. I don't know, weightlifting or sprinting, for example.
Well, a lot of it's funny you say that. A lot of weightlifters. We had a weightlifter, one of the greatest weightlifers of all time. I've actually forgotten his name off the top of my head. At our gym a few months ago. And he always used to try and calm himself as much as humanly possible before he lifted. So, and I'm the same. So, I think you still get that amazing benefit by being calm, knowing what you have to do, even though you are in an aggressive, say, sport. I don't think just because you got to lift a heavy weight or you got to go and run and chase somebody or whatever. I don't think being in that calm, cool mood is going to lower your testosterone levels. You're still going to be able to perform. I think you're just going to get that clarity of what you need to do and not be nervous. You're never going to perform that well when you're nervous.
Yeah. Well, in that case, the breathing meditation would be very effective.
Hey, Danny, we'll get you out of here shortly. I wanted to ask you one thing before we get to 6 from 6. I wanted to ask you. So, what's something like the thing that you're most proud of from the books that you've written? I'm sure you've had lots of people that have written into you and lots of people that you've bumped into in the street or what's the thing that makes you most proud of your achievements with your book and with your being able to reach people through mindfulness?
We get a lot of emails and letters from people who just say, they're just really thankful that they came across our book and it's really helped them. And sometimes, there's a few people who've kind of intimated they were suicidal and, that they just came across our book and it stopped them. And
wow, that's huge.
Exactly. And
they didn't have their book stolen off them.
Yeah, Jesus.
Yes.
I'm going to give that book to you right now.
Yeah. But, that makes writing the book worthwhile in itself.
Absolutely.
As far as I'm concerned.
Literally saving lives.
My auntie was a social worker and she used to work with people who were very serious drug addicts and I could never understand as a teenager why she helped these people who were basically hopeless cases and were also not very nice people, a lot of them, because they disappeared down their own rabbit holes, And she just said, well, if I help one person, it's all been worthwhile. And how can you argue with that?
Yeah, absolutely.
That is fair enough.
Absolutely.
Check,
all right,
mate.
So let's go to 6 from 6. Tommy, so Danny, it's going to be 3 questions from me, 3 questions from Tommy, and then we'll get you out of here. So my first question is, what's your favourite destination you've ever been on the planet? Can be a small town, can be a country, can be a continent, can be anywhere.
I think southern Chile in South America.
Ooh, okay.
Tell me all about it.
Very good.
It's just extraordinary because you realise how empty the world is. It's just absolutely extraordinary down there. It's unbelievably beautiful. Very few people. The climate changes by the second.
Are we talking Patagonia
really,
as far as Patagonia or?
Yeah, well, it is in essentially that's what southern Chile is. It's part of Patagonia, I love it. I loved Australia. I did a year-long backpacking trip.
Oh, nice one.
I can't wait to get to Australia.
Yeah. Well, the irony is, me and my girlfriend at the time, we got around the world flight ticket, and we only spent like a week in Australia. It was madness.
Whereabouts did you go?
I know, it's crazy, absolutely crazy. But that did whet my appetite, and I went back about 5 or 6 years ago, and spent 6 weeks traveling around the Brisbane area. So that was fun.
Nice one.
Beautiful. Brisbane, Vegas.
So I'll be back. You will see me at some point.
Good stuff. Good stuff. We'll have to get you on the show again. So, second question from me is your dream travel destination, Danny, can be anywhere again, somewhere you haven't been that's just number one on your bucket list.
Australia. Obviously, I've got to get back to Australia.
Nice.
Now, what is it about Australia? The kangaroos?
It's probably about 5,000 miles, but I want to drive all the way around the coast.
Oh, yeah.
I'd be keen to do that.
That'd be beautiful.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, you guys can do it together.
Well, we'll just meditate and drive.
That'd be weird, but yeah, good luck to you.
Thanks, mate. You can be in the boot.
All right, Danny, my last question. Do you have any good books that you like to recommend to people that have changed your mind on something or changed your life?
Well, if you just want a really interesting read.
And don't say your own.
Just, No, don't worry.
Finding peace in a frantic Lord of the Rings.
It's a bit nerdy. The Lord of the Rings, that had a profound impact on me when I was a teenager. I love that book. Another
amazing.
great book for spiritual leading is Siddhartha by Hermann Hesse.
Okay.
That's a great book. It's really beautifully simple. It's just lovely.
Why did I nearly said Game of Thrones. What was it about Lord of the Rings that changed your life?
I think it was just the mythology of it, really. It's just such a wonderful fantasy world.
I'm with you. I'm with you 100%.
Total escapism.
Mm-hmm. Do you get into? Do you follow any of the other fantasy realms? Like, have you read A Song of Ice and Fire? Are you a Game of Thrones fan?
I love Game of Thrones. I haven't read the books yet. I'm going to have to.
I've read Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, and tried to read the Silmarillion, and I've also read A Song of Ice and Fire. And I feel like I'm cheating on Gandalf by saying this, but I find A Song of Ice and Fire to be a much better read.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm going to have to go and get it.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to go and get it.
Yep, highly recommended. Doc's Book Club.
I love all this stuff. The way they just weave these complete fantasy worlds.
Yeah, you got to be a real
nerd. You guys are nerds. You guys are real squares. For me, like I've read Spot's Magical Christmas, Cat in the Hat.
What are your questions, Tommy?
All right, I've got a few questions. Hey, Danny, what do you like to do in your downtime? And you can't say meditate.
You can't say Lord of the Rings either.
You can't say Lord of the Rings.
Well, I've got 2 very young kids, so the idea of downtime is that's fantasy world at the moment.
Yep. Is that a book you're reading? Downtime?
I love walking. If I do get any time, I go walking, preferably in the hills.
Beautiful.
Cycling, swimming, going to the pub with my mates.
Boom! There
Have
we
a couple
go.
of beers.
Nothing more mindful than a couple of frothies with the boys.
Get pissed with the boys. And then all meditating.
Well, you've got to live life as well, haven't you?
That is
That's
true.
right, absolutely. And you are English after all.
Yeah, that's very true, yeah.
Exactly.
You wouldn't be English without having constantly being pissed.
Yeah, exactly. What else would you do?
Yeah, that's right.
Look at the sky, it's grey.
Yeah, exactly right.
Grey again. Down the pub, boys. Just
All
joking.
right, boys, here we go. Just bring a bed there.
All right, we probably should.
All right, I'm coming down. We're really having a go at you here.
Yeah, I know.
Sorry, Danny. We asked you on the show. Hey, biggest role model growing up?
Ooh.
Or a current role model?
I didn't really have role models as such. There's people who really influenced me a lot. A really good family friend. She's about 10 or 12 years older than me and was just a lot more into, I suppose, spirituality or mysticism than me. So, yeah, that kind of thing. She's very much into kind of animal rights, animal welfare. So that's where I got my love of determination to protect the natural world from.
Okay.
Nice.
Beautiful. And final question, mate. Now, we understand that you didn't actually look at these questions, so this will be a bit of a crack.
First time that we ever sent homework to any guest. We
That's
gave
right.
them ahead of time because we stump everybody with these questions, and Danny didn't do his homework.
Yeah. All right, we'll give them a go anyway. If you could invite 3 people to dinner, dead or alive, who would they be and why?
Ooh, good question. I always think somebody like George Washington, obviously led the American rebellion against the Brits, mostly because he had all the right ideas, really. And John Locke, he was the first to formulate the rights of man. These are all quite heavy characters. We need somebody who's a bit light and fluffy, don't we?
We need a fluffy character. Yeah.
Yeah, nice fluffy character. Who can we have who's nice and fluffy?
Bill's pretty fluffy.
Bugs Bunny.
Bugs Bunny's very fluffy.
Yeah, okay, somebody, Bugs Bunny.
Okay.
Real Bugs Bunny.
I got a dog that's I've been looking after at the moment. Toby, Jill, my girlfriend, just came home and asked me to let him in. You could take him to dinner with you, and you could even cook him and eat him because he was being a real little shit today. All right, that was the shittest gag. That was shitter than your gag. The last show, Tommy.
That's true. I shouldn't have laughed that hard. It wasn't funny. All right. Sorry, Danny, we've lost the plot here. It's quite late over here, and we're about 10 beers in. No, we're not. Hey, Danny, let's talk about some. Bill's absolutely lost it. Some things you want to plug. Where can people find you?
Okay. My website, which gives you lots of free meditations, is franticworld.com. You can follow me on Twitter, which is at Dr. Danny Penman. You can find me on Facebook, and I can't remember what the handle is, but I leave posts there regularly.
Jeez, you came well prepared, Danny, didn't you? Don't even know your Facebook handle.
I just looked you up on Facebook before, and it comes under as Big Papa 69.
It's not just something nice and simple and straightforward like at Dr. Danny Penman. It's a long string of words, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
They need to get that sorted. I think.
I think with your English accent, I think it sounded to me like you just said it's not / the ass doctor, Danny Penman. We'll have to specify in the show notes that it's not
Danny Penman's
the ass doctor. I've lost the plot again. Damn it! I keep losing the plot on these shows. Danny, I'm sorry. Let's. That's it.
That is it.
Yeah. Actually, I'm just going to call up, for the sake of argument, my Facebook page.
Okay.
You're right. I should have done my homework slightly more intensely. But if you Google my name, mindfulness, and the Facebook page is mindfulness : finding peace in a frantic world.
Beautiful.
Yeah, there we go. It's absolutely everywhere. It's always on the bestseller list on Audible. I'm a big audiobook listener, so it's actually on my when Tommy stole the book from me, it's been on my listening list there, my must listen, and so it's great. Hey, Danny, thanks a lot for your time, and I think hopefully our listeners got a whole bunch out of it, and hopefully it sends a few people to your book or to somewhere else where they can find a little bit of mindfulness and make themselves just that little bit happier day to day.
Yeah, that's the important thing.
Absolutely.
I don't care how they come across the book, so long as they, get something from it.
As long as they come across the book.
Yes, that's right. And give me all the credit and money.
I wouldn't recommend theft. But,
like old mate over here. Yeah. All right, Danny. Thanks a lot, mate. That's a wrap from us.
Okay.
All right, bye.
Thanks very much for calling.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
If you like the show, guys, please jump on board by subscribing. You can jump on iTunes. Bill just give me a weird look then. You can subscribe to the show by going on iTunes. But if you really want to get around us, guys, you can leave a rating and review on iTunes. Doesn't take long. All you have to do is make sure you sign into your Apple ID account and then just give us 5 stars. Just press one button and then just go at Adventure Fit Radio. Haha. And then it's all good. Now, guys, quick word from the sponsors. Head to www.truepride.com.au/ADVF and get the initial joining fee of $297 waived when you book a call via their website. Take control, get ahead, worry less, get your budget sorted, guys. Go to True Pride. Carve if you want to offset some of the stuff you don't want to be doing. Get ahead on the next project, guys. www.carve.ph/ADVF is for you. Get 10 hours free on any project. And finally, team, Adventure Fit Travel. Many travels. many trips coming up, guys. Head to www.adventurefittravel.com, and you can also use the code word radio to get 10% off all
trips. That's
trips.
right. And don't forget the show notes. If you need anything from the show notes, they're at www.adventurefittravel.com/radio.
And if I was Bill, I'd be saying see you next week, but I'm Tom, so I'm going to be saying see you next week. Goodbye.
Discovery Roger, go for deploy.